Hello and welcome to the first of a new series of HammerCast, the GameHammer Podcast. This is a far more informal thing than even GameHammer Daily, where I just talk about the games I've been looking at, because this is all about various topics that come up during the week about games, but also a few key topics that either I've suggested myself or other people have suggested to me. And of course, you are free to suggest topics for future podcasts, and in the future we may even have people on to discuss these topics as well. I think it's going to be something that develops, and we'll see how it goes. For the first topic, I actually got them on my phone here. So for our first topic that comes up in this episode is, can there be such a thing as a perfect game? The perfect game. I think we've seen a lot of people that would say, X, Y, and Z is perfect. It's 10 out of 10. It's all of that. And yet we see a lot of really high AAA titles where if something doesn't get like 5 stars, then what's going wrong? Have the people who are reviewing it been got to by someone else to try and downplay the quality of this game and all of that? We see a lot of angry vocal people who've thrown themselves behind the idea that they're going to love this game that they haven't even played yet, and they get upset. But does that mean that the game is perfect if it gets that kind of score? Now, I've been thinking about this all day because, let's face it, at the moment, you can probably tell by my voice, I'm not in 100%, so I've had a lot of time to think about this. And I don't think a 5 out of 5 score necessarily means the game is perfect. I mean that from the way I see a review score, everything should start out with 5, and if there's something wrong with it, there should be a reason to take part of that score away. So that's why I always score my stuff on a percentage scale rather than out of 5 stars, because it gives you that little extra level of nuance. So let's take, for example, Legend of Zelda. We know Ocarina of Time and things like that. They've scored really high. Everyone thinks they're the pinnacle of Zelda, and to be honest with you, having played it, I agree, it's really, really good. Probably even 5 stars. But is it perfect? I don't think it is. Because even though people say this is a top scoring game, it's wonderful, you'll love it when you play it, and you do when you play it, you love it, everyone also mentions the underwater level and they don't like it. So from my point of view, if a perfect game exists, then there shouldn't be those parts of it where everyone says, yes, it's great. You have to get through this part, but the rest of it is great. So if there's something that you have to get through to enjoy the rest of the game, from my point of view, it can't be perfect. So here's the question. Is there a perfect game? And I've been struggling to think of one. To be honest with you, I think anyone would struggle to think of one. So I think the possibility of a game being perfect exists. I think a few games have come close to being perfect. We've all seen a few examples where we think, I have enjoyed pretty much every aspect of this game. It's just been that good. I couldn't put it down. It's amazing. I love it. But there's always one or two little bits where it's like, I wish this was a bit different or that was a bit different. So yeah, I think the perfection is a possibility, and one day we will have the perfect game, but we haven't had it yet. That's my view. What's yours? Because it's something that was sent to me as a possible topic for this podcast. And I thought, that is a great idea for the opening question on the podcast. But I don't think I could ever name a perfect game. But I would love to hear what you think. Do you think there is a perfect game? I would love to hear from you. What are your top 10 favourite games of all time? Now, this would potentially have been a good one to link in from Perfect Game, but like I say, I don't think any game has been perfect, but I do have a lot of games that I adore and that I can come back to time and time again. Everyone who knows me knows that one of my favourite games of all time is Bosconian. Bosconian is one of the best arcade games that most people overlook. It is superb. I love it. It's in my top 10. Absolutely in my top 10, without a doubt. Every time I think of an arcade game that I want to play, it's Bosconian. Or Pac-Man. Pac-Man is my other real favourite arcade game. But do I prefer Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man? That's an interesting question, isn't it? Is a sequel possibly better than the original? In the case of Miss Pac-Man, yes, I think it is, because it refines the way that Pac-Man works. And the mazes are different so that you're not familiar as much with it. It has better AI. Whoops, I've just smacked the microphone. It has better AI. There are all kinds of tweaks to it, which essentially make it the better game. So I think Miss Pac-Man would be my top 10 with Bosconian. But not all perfect games, or at least my top 10 games, are from arcades. Skyrim. I know a lot of people would mention Skyrim first and foremost because it is amazing. Out of all of the role-playing games I've played in my life, Skyrim is one of the ones I keep coming back to the most. I absolutely adore it. So we've got 3 there. Bosconian, Miss Pac-Man, Skyrim. What would be the rest of my top 10? Magic Land Dizzy has to be in there. For those of you outside of the UK who don't really know Dizzy, here's one thing that you have to know. He, for a long time, was the mascot for home computer gaming in the UK. He was on the Amstrad, he was on the Spectrum, he was on the Commodore. I'm pretty sure he's on the MSX or something like that. I'm sure there was a conversion. He's on the Mega Drive. I can reach over and grab the Mega Drive game right now. I keep it close to the computer because it's one of the few Dizzy games I haven't actually finished. It's just how it is. Can I put this back on the shelf before I continue? No, I can't. It's a great game. I just love it. It's superb. Very, very hard, though. So what else is there? Well, we've got a Bosconian. We've got Miss Pac-Man. We've got Skyrim. We've got Magic Land Dizzy, because it is probably the best Dizzy, to be honest with you. I keep coming back to it. That and Fantasy World, they switch every now and again between which one's my favourite. Tetris. Gotta have Tetris. Tetris is one of those games that it doesn't matter what device you've got, you can probably play Tetris on it. Because everyone wants to play Tetris on pretty much everything. I would play Tetris on a toaster if you'd let me. It's one of those things. I would love that. It would be great. So there's your 5. There's your top 5. No particular order, but what else? Got to go back to the arcades because there is one game that I came back to time and time again, spent far too much money on, and would have continued if I'd had any more. That is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The original Turtles arcade game. I don't think it's ever been topped. A lot of people say, oh, the X-Men game was great, or oh, the Simpsons game was great. Yeah, they might have been great, but they weren't Turtles. Turtles was just so good. It keeps coming back. There's a one-up cabinet of it. You can go out and get it right now and play it. Turtles is superb. So 6 now. We've got 6 in the top 10. What else is there? Out of all the games ever, well, it's got to be Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, hasn't it? The pinnacle of the Grand Theft Auto series. Guys, if you play Grand Theft Auto just to ride around and cause mayhem, San Andreas has you covered. If you play Grand Theft Auto for the fantastic, funny dialogue and all of the character interplay between people, San Andreas has you covered. If you play Grand Theft Auto for the storyline, San Andreas has you covered. It covers all the bases. It is, without doubt, from my point of view, the pinnacle of the Grand Theft Auto series. The original was great. That was superb. 3 was groundbreaking. I know everyone says Driver and Driver 2 were amazing, and they came first, and yes, they did, but Grand Theft Auto beat them for a reason, because Grand Theft Auto was better. And then 4 and 5, yeah, they're superb. They look amazing. I mean, 5 has basically a license to print money at this point. But it's not as good as San Andreas. And I say this as someone who's completed all of the Grand Theft Autos. It's not as good as San Andreas. That ending is superb. I just love it. So, that's 7. I'm miscounting. That's 7 now. Are there any others? Well, I'm looking at, you can probably see, I have an awful lot of games around here. What else is there? Well, a lot of people would say that Goldeneye on the N64 was one of the best games of all time. Personally, I think it was bettered. And some people would say, yes, it was, by Perfect Dark. But to be honest with you, I think that was bettered too. By Time Splitters 2. Time Splitters 2 has the craziness that you want from something that allows you to have massive death matches with your friends. It has great controls. It has an interesting story. It has wacky characters. It has fun, first and foremost. It is superb. Wonderful game. Absolutely love it. So, we now have... Let me think about what I've said. Bosconian, Ms. Pac-Man. What was the other one? Skyrim. I should have written these down. Magic Land Dizzy. Tetris. Grand Theft Auto. San Andreas, even. I said another one. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And we just said Time Splitters 2. I would have written these down if I had planned it ahead. Today has been an interesting day, but I had to actually start this show because if I didn't start now, it would get pushed back with other stuff that came up. But I want to make this regular. On Friday night, we're going to have a chat with the podcast, and that's how it's going to go. So we have 2 left. 2 games left. What could it be? What could those 2 final games be? Well, we need to address the big daddy in the room. The big N, the big red N that essentially saved the American market of video games. Not the UK market. We talk about the great North American video game crash, but a lot of people used to call it the great video game crash or the video game crash. But it was only North America that this happened to. In Europe, we were still having a whale of a time because the ZX Spectrum basically dominated. And guys, as an Amstrad fan, I am ready and willing and able to acknowledge that Sir Clive Sinclair and his rubber-keyed delight saved computers in the UK and created the powerhouses that are the UK development houses that came out of it. He saved it. But in America, and to a large extent, probably Japan as well, Nintendo created something that was truly amazing. And they did it with their mascot, Mario. But which Mario game gets in the top 10? And I know Americans love Mario 3. They talk about it so much. But Mario 3 was not the one that made me want a Nintendo console. The one that made me want a Nintendo console was Super Mario World. Super Mario World is, from my point of view, simply amazing. It looks great, it plays great, it sounds great, it is great. It's just one of the best games that I ever played. And it made me think, that Nintendo console, none of my friends have a Nintendo, everyone has a Mega Drive, but I like what Nintendo are doing. When I saw Super Mario World on Games Master, I thought, yes, that's it. It wasn't the game that really solidified me wanting a Nintendo console, because that was Star Fox. Which, funnily enough, I wouldn't put into my top 10 because it was beaten by others and refined later on. But it had something that a lot of things didn't. So I had to address that. And Super Mario World only just beats out Sonic 2 for my top 10 because Mario World has more staying power. Sonic 2, once you've played it and beaten it, there are only a few different routes you can go through, and then it's pretty much you playing it and running over the same courses again. But Super Mario World has so many levels that you can come back to it time and time again, and you'll probably find something new for a very long time. So it beat out Sonic 2. But even that can't top the top 10 list. Because for me, the greatest game I ever played, the one that's right at my top of the top 10, Sid Meier's Civilization. You can't beat it. It is a superb game. From start to finish, Civilization is just simply superb. It's one of those games where I know it's had sequels, but the sequels never hit home to me as much as the original did. This thing, I don't know what it is about it. It wasn't the first of the 4X style games that I ever played, because to be honest with you, that would have been SimCity and then The Settlers, which is both of them are amazing games and they will get reviewed. But Civilization took everything that was there with those games, and I know it came first, but from my point of view, because I saw it later, it took everything that I'd liked from those games and just enhanced it so much, and then added loads more of its own stuff. So for me, that was the pinnacle. And I'd love to hear whether you agree with this top 10 list. What's your top 10? I would love to hear that. And again, if you have any ideas for topics, then please do let me know in the comments, because we'll talk about them later. And as I said, I'm going to have some guests on these shows once we're more established and I can work out some schedules with people. I have got a few feelers out. We'll see what happens. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed this very loose done, very hit and miss, slapped together hurriedly while I'm having a cup of tea and trying my best to stay awake after a very, very long week. Initial episode of the HammerCast, the GameHammer Podcast. I'll see you next time. We'll be back every week on Fridays, and hopefully we'll have a bit more together with us next time, because it won't have been a case of I need to get everything thrown together as quick as possible. It's the start of the year and everything didn't come together like I thought. But until then, take care of yourself, happy gaming, I'll see you later. Bye. If you like the show, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It really does help create future videos. That's patreon.com/Zoe Kirk Robinson. And I've got an extra special thanks going out to Chief89, Sam Yates, Retro Mickey 82, Mo Henry, and George Botterini. Thank you so much, guys.